بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. We greet you on this, the 21st day of the month of Dhul Hijjah of the year 1445 from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we greet you with the news that we live in very, very, very interesting times. For those of us who are observing the movement of history, we would know that the most critical area in the world today of danger for mankind is Ukraine. And it is because a Western world is waging war, proxy war against Russia, using Ukraine as a guinea pig. And that war is now arriving at a critical moment when Ukraine seems to be on the way to losing the war. And at this very vulnerable moment in Ukraine's history, and in the history of the West, two things are now imminent. The first is, of course, elections in France, and it seems to be already a foregone conclusion that the opposition is going to win the election in France, and that France is going to have a prime minister who will be at odds with the president. And that prime minister will control domestic policy. And France's capacity and freedom to be able to continue to be an active player by proxy in the war in Ukraine against Russia is now going to be severely curtailed. That's right. Once the elections take place within a short time from now, France's capacity to intervene in Ukraine on behalf of the West is going to be severely curtailed. That's the first interesting thing about the moment in time in which we are now located. But the second and even more alarming for the West is that there are elections coming up in United States of America in November. And the front runner in that election is already very plainly and very clearly Donald Trump. And if there is a re-election of Donald Trump as President of the United States of America come November, then the consequences and the implications for the war in Ukraine would be even more disastrous for the West, because Trump has never hidden his agenda, that he thinks that he has the capacity to bring the war in Ukraine to a sudden stop simply by putting pressure on both sides. But he does not have much leeway to putting pressure on Russia. He certainly does have the capacity to put pressure on Ukraine. And so it seems to me to be again a foregone conclusion that the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States of America for the second time come November is going to spell even greater disaster for the West. We live in interesting times, and it is necessary for, at least for my students, who are students of Islamic eschatology, to be observing the movement of history. And what is plain and clear is that the movement of history for Russia is one in which Russia is climbing higher and higher to become the dominant military power in the world. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.